light above these ruined skies. Only monsters still survive, buried deep beneath the sand. I came back with bloodied hands. Every scar became my name, every loss became my rage. In this world where weak ones fall, I won't fear the storm at all. Rise through the wasteland, fight till the very end. No, I will never run. The desert made me overcome. Born from the dust, made by the pain, I became the weapon of a world in flames. Stand through the storm, don't look away. Even if the heavens fall, I will still remain. I will still remain.
In a world without hope, a young man lived in an even worse manner. The weak had their fate sealed. This is why the young man in the middle of the desert was being devoured by a giant worm. About 100 years ago, a terrifyingly bright beam of light struck the Earth. This light began to consume all life on the planet. The small blue planet, which was the cradle of all things, soon turned into a vast desert. All that remained for the few remaining humans was to build their own fortresses. One young man, traveling by train, complained to himself, "If they are going to destroy them, do it properly. Why leave only the insects alive?" As he complained, someone pushed him against the train wall. A muscular man mocked him, demanding he say his name. The young man responded helplessly, "Zen." The muscular man laughed with his companions. "You only have one name? Don't you have several, father?" Ha ha ha. The young man bit his lips, holding back his irritation. The man sat next to him, placing his muscular arm around Zen's neck. "Relax, kid. We're all in this together. Shouldn't we get along?" The guys who rode that mining bus usually had one thing in common. None of them were really miners. They were criminals or fugitives, always at least one of the two. As the man continued to chatter beside him, Zen lost his patience. He turned and delivered a quick punch that knocked the man to the ground. Zen walked towards him. "Do you want to know what I am? A killer, strictly speaking." Zen had not harmed a single person, which revealed his nature. In this new era, only the strong were considered human. To him, there was nothing wrong with throwing away one more piece of trash. Some rats had tried to steal his things, and Zen took care of them. The man lying on the ground warned before his consciousness faded. "My brother is Lee from Iron. Did you hear? You're finished, bastard." Zen was startled to hear such a name. If the strong were considered people, the awakened were the gods above them. A mere rat, as he himself recognized to be, offending a person of that caliber was to give up his existence. Rumors spread that Lee Jirong was looking for Zeon. Before he knew it, he was already on the bus heading to the mines. As Zeon continued to punch the man who was the target of his fists, he smirked mockingly. "Are you done yet?" Zeon felt a sudden headache. The man had grabbed him and threw him over the train seats. He ended up revealing he was there for the same reason as Zeon. Disappointed because he was going to treat him like a brother, he mocked. "I think I will teach you a lesson, like the brother I will be. Everyone agrees with that, right?" The man's hands were on fire, showing the power of an awakened. Zeon never expected to find an awakened so far from where he came from. Just as he was about to be attacked, the bus suddenly turned. The vehicle was tossed up and down, veering off the road. One of the injured men shouted at the driver. "Learn to drive, damn it!" The driver was murmuring in fear. The man approached him, questioning what he was saying. The bus driver spoke louder. "I said we are no longer going to the mines." Confused, the man injured from the rollover questioned what exactly he meant, with a scared look. The driver warned what he saw outside. "We are being consumed now." A gigantic worm opened its mouth around the bus, creating a whirlwind of sand that pulled it down. People on the bus began to fall on top of each other. They were thrown out through the windows, sinking into the sand that the giant worm was swallowing. Looking back, Zeon could see how that situation always repeated itself, in Nova So, or when he encountered an awakened, or even when he was being consumed by a sandworm. Nothing was special. The reason was simple. Zeon was about to try fighting the monster when a man pushed him aside. "You're in the way." Before he could realize it, he had already been thrown away by the man. He fell, with sand entering his mouth, exchanging the hot sand. Zeon asked irritably who the man was and where he had come from. Before his answer could be heard, Zeon widened his eyes. The man had climbed onto the body of the giant monster. On top of the worm, with a large sword stuck in the beast's body, the man said, "When this starts to eat, they grow ridiculously fast." He continued asking the worm, "Since being so high is scary, why don't you come down to the first floor?" The man lifted his leg, kicked the sword, and made the worm fall to the ground. The protagonist protected himself from the wave of impact from the cloud of sand created by the collision. He was still incredulous that the man had defeated the sandworm so easily. Zeon watched the man pull the sword that was stuck in the worm's body while trying to figure out who he was. A young girl with blue hair approached eagerly. "That's our captain, Jung Yunbaum!" The protagonist turned his head to look at the girl, asking when she appeared. The young girl with blue hair was clapping. "Isn't he the fastest of them all?" Zeon felt that the arm the girl had embraced was freezing. He jumped away while the man named Jung Yunbaum approached, saying, "Sandworms are not tough opponents." He called the young girl named Giselle to reprimand her, but he just sighed silently. Giselle kept holding Zeon's arm, which by that point was already red, as if it were nothing. She tripped him, throwing him to the ground with a smile that showed she was not a threat. Giselle began to remove the cloth band from Zeon's arm, eager to see the rank and skill he had. She even started to guess, but when she removed the bands and saw nothing, she was surprised. Giselle called the captain. Zeon was about to try fighting the monster when a man pushed him aside. "You're in the way." Before he could realize it, he had already been thrown away by the man. He fell, with sand entering his mouth, exchanging the hot sand. Zeon asked irritably who the man was and where he had come from. Before his answer could be heard, Zeon widened his eyes. The man had climbed onto the body of the giant monster. On top of the worm, with a large sword stuck in the beast's body, the man said, "When this starts to eat, they grow ridiculously fast." He continued asking the worm, "Since being so high is scary, why don't you come down to the first floor?" The man lifted his leg, kicked the sword, and made the worm fall to the ground. The protagonist protected himself from the wave of impact from the cloud of sand created by the collision. He was still incredulous that the man had defeated the sandworm so easily. Zeon watched the man pull the sword that was stuck in the worm's body while trying to figure out who he was. A young girl with blue hair approached eagerly. "That's our captain, Jung Yunbaum!" The protagonist turned his head to look at the girl, asking when she appeared. The young girl with blue hair was clapping. "Isn't he the fastest of them all?" Zeon felt that the arm the girl had embraced was freezing. He jumped away while the man named Jung Yunbaum approached, saying, "Sandworms are not tough opponents." He called the young girl named Giselle to reprimand her, but he just sighed silently. Giselle kept holding Zeon's arm, which by that point was already red, as if it were nothing. She tripped him, throwing him to the ground with a smile that showed she was not a threat. Giselle began to remove the cloth band from Zeon's arm, eager to see the rank and skill he had. She even started to guess, but when she removed the bands and saw nothing, she was surprised. Giselle called the captain. "Hey, that guy is not awakened." The protagonist cursed her, questioning what she was doing. Completely ignoring him, Giselle pulled Zeon's arm back. She was trying to show the captain that he didn't have an awakened mark. Zeon thought the girl was blind. There was no way for awakened people to not have the mark. While Giselle was still trying to investigate if the young man they found was awakened or not, someone in an armored car started yelling, "Stop wasting time and hurry up. I've already warned you that sunset is coming." Quickly, Giselle finally released Zeon's arm, asking the captain what they would do with him. Jung Yunbaum stared at him for a second before giving an order. "Throw him in there." He was going to the mines anyway. Excited, Giselle tossed Zeon up and down as if he were her new toy. The military jeep sped quickly across the sands. The jeep driver kept complaining. "Why do you all keep moving ahead alone? I've already said it's sunset, but you never listen to me." While she continued arguing with the rest of the team, Zeon, tied up in the cargo compartment, had to remain silent, but he wasn't still. In front of him, a small whirlwind of sand formed, enough to fit in the palm of his hand. The sand moved at his will. Therefore, Zeon was sure he had a skill. What confused him was the fact that they couldn't see his awakened mark. Thinking about it, he remembered that his mark was a different color. On Zeon's wrist, besides the black lines, there was a line that was neither yellow nor orange, but the color of sand. The colors of a rank followed the awakened's affinity. Magical types had blue color, while combat types received red color. Although there were several cases of different affinities, Zeon had never heard of sand manipulation. He put the skill into practice, making the sand that dirtied the cargo compartment move. Climbing up with his arms. Even with the mark of the lowest rank, rank F, Zion could feel that this ability had infinite potential. Just like the desert, a big smile appeared on the protagonist's face. He decided to wait until that power was truly his. Until the right moment arrived, he would continue to hide it. Manipulating the sand, he formed a sphere in his hand. Zion wished for not just the desert, but the whole world for himself. As the sun was setting, the military vehicle approached the mines, a complex of buildings around large, thorny rocks that rose toward the clouds. Zion was seeing the Mana Stone mines for the first time. There was everything from a checkpoint to everything they might need. In the end, It looked just like a normal city in the desert. While looking around, a man shouted at him, telling him to follow. Zion asked the man to untie him, but he only received more yelling. "Shut up before I gag you too." Zion was forced to just follow him, falling behind. Captain Young observed Zion. He commented, "This is definitely strange." Stretching, Giselle asked if he found it odd that there was a single survivor in the worm attack, something that could be a complete coincidence. However, Young Biom trusted his instincts, and they told him it was not a coincidence. After defeating the sandworm, he discovered a big hole in the monster's body. The captain regretted not having at least asked the boy's name, but had a feeling he would meet him again. As he entered the mining town, Zion found bars, restaurants, tall buildings, and people having fun. He looked around, realizing he was wrong about what he thought of the city. The man who led him cut the ropes on Zion's wrists with a weapon and barked, "Be quiet until the person in charge of you arrives." When the man began to leave, Zion asked if he was just going to leave him there, doing nothing. The man, however, did not care about leaving him alone, or if he tried to do something. Zion looked around, wondering if there was a place where he could eat. When he went to ask a man for information, he saw a poster on a wall. A miner was lifting a large mana stone. It was used in the construction of the new CU. The poster displayed the phrase, "Shine with our work." The man in front of the poster stopped his drink to comment, "What do you think? Isn't it amazing? That phrase is surprisingly true." Of course it is. The energy source of Novatsu isn't exactly the mana stones? The man with calloused hands asked, grabbing a meat skewer. Zion asked what the man meant by that, as it seemed to imply there was another energy source besides the mana stones. The man pointed at Zion. "You rats like you easily obey and get filled up. What a great energy source, right?" He smirked as he spoke. Zion warned the old man, "By the way, we just met, and you look old enough to swim in the river that leads to the other world." Curious, the old man asked Zion what it was like inside a sandworm. "Did it feel like you were back in your mother's belly?" Surprised, Zion asked if people already knew the answer. The man laughed at the young one, warning him that it wasn't a hiding place against monsters. Zion corrected him, stating he was there to make money. Disbelieving the boy, the man claimed he would show him something funny. He pointed to something behind him. There were piles of boxes, which Zion recognized. "You are delusional. What's so funny about trash? What are those things?" The man laughed again, revealing he was collecting what he kept from the rest of the people who went to the mines. With a sharp look, he warned, "You will end up like this too." He revealed something that would cause nightmares for many. Everyone who came here at the beginning tried not to enter the mines. You know how the mines are, don't you? They try to resist until the end. They believe they will perish if they enter the mines. But in the end, all they do is delay the inevitable. They end up losing everything they have, and find themselves in the same place, thinking they would prefer to be in the mines. The old man who spoke nonsensical things began to philosophize. They say that when a man perishes, he leaves a mark behind. But trash like you leaves nothing but rot when you go. I am eager to see what you will leave behind. The protagonist bared his teeth, backing away from the old man's curses. He stood up, intending to leave. He asked how much the skewer he ate cost. The man smiled, stating it cost 10 soys. Zion threw the empty skewer on the table, making it bounce and fly away. Almost going mad over the price, he asked, "Did you sprinkle gold on the meat?" The man laughed, claiming everything there was scarce. Even the skewer he threw away should cost about 9 soys. Zion smiled wickedly, even mocking the meat the old man used to make the skewer. He apologized, warning that he didn't have that much money, while complaining that he was being extorted. Various other vendors and butchers grabbed their weapons, surrounding him. When Zion realized, he was already surrounded to the point that everything around him went dark. The old seller asked with a smile, "Aren't you curious how an old man like me keeps doing business in a mine like this?" Several knives were already pointed menacingly at Zion. The old man asked what he would do. The protagonist slammed the table in frustration, asking the old man to calm down. He stated he didn't have that much money, and that no way would meat cost 10 sois. The old man thought of an alternative. "I'll let you pay another way. How about the mana stone in your pocket?" The protagonist began to sweat, surprised to hear that the old man knew about his mana stone. The man extended his hand. He commanded Zion to show him the stone. He would evaluate it for a fair price. While Zion continued to refuse, a man approached him. The giant hand of the man threw him against the table, growling fiercely. At that moment, Zion murmured, "Sand explosion." The hand holding him flew towards the other merchants. Sand attacked all the men surrounding him. Thus, he would be free. However, that was what he thought of doing, and he did not do it. He remained silent, with a bruised nose, while the man holding him asked if he was daydreaming. With no alternatives, Zion threw the mana stone on the table, cursing. "Here is the mana stone you wanted so much." The man picked up the mana stone, analyzing it without much enthusiasm. A size like this should be worth at least 100 soas. Zeon slammed his hand on the table irritably. That's worth at least 300. What do you mean by 100? With the man not yielding, Zeon gritted his teeth irritably. He lowered his head. Inside, he cursed everyone, but assured himself that it was not yet time to show his awakened power. In a calm voice, he asked the man to at least give him the change. The merchants around congratulated each other, celebrating another fraud. The old kebab seller smiled and, being generous, pointed to the junk he had at his stall. Since you are a novice, take something from there, but just one. Zeon began rummaging through the garbage, hoping there was something worth taking. The man watched him. He had never seen someone care so much about not missing out on something. As Zeon piled all kinds of things on his head, like hats or fake noses, he found something that, according to the man, had been left there by a caravan. The item did not seem normal, but it was certainly something that would interest Zeon, a sand hourglass. Zeon immediately stood up to leave, ignoring the man who said he had picked up something useless. Before leaving, however, Zeon asked the name of the old man. Arrogantly, the man shouted, "My name is Klexi." Zeon said goodbye. "May we never meet again, Klexi." The man laughed as he went in another direction. He claimed not to know if that would truly happen. Far from there, Zeon observed the black sand hourglass he possessed. It took about 10 minutes for the sand to pass through the narrow neck. Currently, Zeon was in the miner's quarters. The protagonist inhaled, focusing. His eyes sparkled with a golden sand color as he tried to use his power on the sand to make it move. However, nothing happened. He could only see his own reflection in the glass. In the end, he believed that item was not connected to his power, even though he was sure of that when he first saw it. Still, a déjà vu lingered in Zeon's mind. He felt as if it had been prepared for him, as if it were calling out to him even at that moment. Suddenly, someone kicked the door of Zeon's dormitory. "You are the new guy who just showed up." The man, covered in scars, continued shouting, "Hey, kid! Why aren't you in the mines?" "Huh? Park Marrow. I have to drag you." The protagonist corrected him. "My name is not Kid, it's Zeon. And to begin with, you should have told me where to go." As he spoke, the man attacked him with a punch, sending him to the ground. For Zeon, that was already routine. The man continued to beat him, cursing him for daring to respond. Even amid the attacks from the man named Park Marrow, Zeon maintained a steady gaze until he stopped. Restraining the man, he ordered the boy to follow him with a face full of bruises. The protagonist swore, "Park Marrow, I will remember your name and make sure to take you down." At the entrance to the third mining zone, heat and smoke could be seen throughout the area. Park Marrow entered the mine, instructing the man at the entrance to get gear for the novice. Helping Zeon get dressed, the man warned that the cost of the equipment and meals would be deducted from his payment. The instruction was to bring back the mana stones he mined. Asking if that was all, Zeon wondered how much they earned per day. Before he could hear an answer, a pickaxe flew towards him, hitting only his helmet. When he ducked, Park Marrow was the one who attacked with the pickaxe. "I need to teach the basics, and that helmet will be deducted from your payment." Park Marrow approached the man at the mine entrance. He ordered him to send the newbie to tunnel 972. The man was surprised, trying to warn about something concerning the mine tunnel. However, Park Marrow scared him. "Do you want to go in his place?" The man simply nodded, taking Zeon with him. As they walked down the mine corridor, they heard Park Marrow shout one last time, "Don't even think about coming up before digging at least one mana stone, or I will deal with you." Already getting irritated, the protagonist muttered curses, surprising the man next to him. "Hey, be careful that he doesn't hear you." They both descended through one of the stone towers. They could see the sky from the hole at the top. There were several openings along its spiral. The man accompanying Zeon felt pity for him. "You were unlucky. You arrived on the day Park Marrow lost a bet." Curious, the protagonist asked if there were casinos in the mining town. The man nodded, warning that there was also all kinds of corruption, just like in Nova So. Going down the mine elevator, the protagonist joked, "It's no wonder there are so many crimes with that idiot Park Marrow. Business must be great around here." The man laughed at Zeon's audacity while waiting for the elevator to descend. The protagonist joked once more, "I can't believe I have to pick up a pickaxe. I have soft skin. I'll get hurt easily." The man, however, stated that he wouldn't get hurt. Bowing his head grimly, he concluded, "No one gets hurt there." It never happened. Looking at the number on the corridor, the protagonist saw that they had finally arrived. This was tunnel 972. Exiting the elevator, Zeon asked if all he needed to do was mine mana stones, claiming he would be back soon. The man, however, grimly corrected him. "You won't be coming back. More than a dozen miners have disappeared here. I personally saw 4 vanish. We don't even know if they are still alive." The man made the elevator go up. leaving the young man behind as he said goodbye. I'm sorry and thank you for going to the place where no one wants to go. Watching the elevator rise, the protagonist shouted, Wait! Where are you going? Are you really going to leave me here knowing that no one ever came back? But only silence answered him. Zeon was left alone. Zeon unleashed all his fury, raising the pickaxe while shouting, Damn bastards! All because I offended you and now you send me here! Zeon threw the pickaxe to the ground, and it ricocheted, hitting him, before he ran into the depths of the tunnel. The protagonist chased after it until, without realizing it, he got lost. As he walked through the tunnel, Zeon noticed that the mana present was incredibly dense. He wondered if no one had noticed, because all the miners were just civilians, not awakened. The further he walked, the denser the mana became. Any normal person would have fainted. Wondering what the source of that mana was, he finally found his pickaxe. However, it was broken. Walking to the tool, Zeon thought he was lucky to find it, but just a few steps away, a hole opened up beneath his feet. With wide eyes, the protagonist began to fall into the portal. He didn't even take the pickaxe with him, leaving behind the helmet with the lantern, as if it were a signal. The broken pickaxe ended up forming a cross. Abandoned by his parents since childhood, Zeon wondered what kind of life he wanted. All he sought was not to suffer from hunger. He wanted to have dreams like other people. One day, when they tried to steal his food, he fought back. Instead of constantly fleeing, terrified, he wanted a life where he didn't have to worry about protecting his life all the time. He wanted to escape to have a normal life, like many others. Zeon, after falling into the portal, woke up in another tunnel. After the fall, he felt a headache and cursed, Why is it so hot here? Waving his hand in front of his face, all he could see were fog and ashes. It was then that he finally remembered having fallen into a portal. Zeon had not just fallen into a portal, but into a dungeon. What was before him looked like the inner area of the Earth's core. Hot lava flowed like rivers among melting rock peaks carried by the fiery current. A stone fell close to Zeon. He instinctively grabbed it, but had to drop it immediately, throwing it to the ground. Damn, that's really hot! Burning his hand made him realize he wasn't dreaming. What should have been volcanic ash in his hand felt like hot sand. Zeon felt that if he didn't get out of there soon, he would end up cooking. Tearing a piece of his pants, he used the cloth as a mask to keep the ashes from entering his nose. Having entered that dungeon, he imagined there must be a way out, probably at its highest point, the top of the volcano. Since there were no monsters around, Zeon believed it was the best time to move. He tried to do so quickly. Being someone who never gave up, he ran toward a lava stream, jumping over it to another mound of burnt earth. However, the spot where he landed broke away, falling toward the fiery river. The protagonist fell along with the chunk of earth but managed to cling to the edge. He strained to pull himself up, avoiding the lava behind him. Hitting the ground irritably, Zeon shouted, cursing, Damn Morrow Park! I will end you as soon as I get out of here. Zeon quickly managed to stay in control. He did not allow anger to dictate his decisions. Swearing that he would survive, he would do anything for that, anything to return to his goal. There were still 4 more jumps to be made. If he could execute those 4 jumps perfectly, he would reach his destination. Zeon said to himself, Don't stop. Move instead of thinking. My life must not end in a place like this. Zeon ran towards the edge of the lava river, jumping once more. However, from within the lava river, a giant crocodile emerged, opening its mouth to swallow him. The large crocodile closed its mouth and returned to the lava. The lava bubbled around the beast that swam after trying to get its snack, but this time it hadn't succeeded. In the sky above the crocodile and the lava river, Zeon appeared using his vest as a parachute. After pushing the ashes against the garment to propel himself upward and escape being devoured, the protagonist, until recently, was not sure if he could control the ashes, but that had saved his life. Falling back onto a patch of solid ground, the protagonist collapsed on the ground. It was so hot that he felt he would lose consciousness. Besides the hostile climate, there were monsters with noses already clogged with heat and ashes. Zeon was having difficulty breathing. His vision was getting blurry. He already felt that he would not survive. Suddenly, however, he hit the ground and forced himself to stand up. Less than 3 minutes ago, he had told himself that he would get out of there alive. There was an intense desire inside him. I have never dated a girl. I need to get out of here alive. The protagonist stood up and began to control the ashes around him, warning, Sir and Madam on the other side, instead of taking me, receive this leather bag that I am sending you. The large crocodile emerged from the lava. Ascending where Zeon was to pursue him, the protagonist advanced, shouting bravely. It was then that he heard a voice. Looks like you have something fun there. The protagonist's attack failed when he lost focus, looking around. A voice said, Sir? The voice came again. Can you control sand? That's very interesting. Zeon located the source of the voice and looked up. No way. It was him. Someone with white hair was falling from the sky towards the lava crocodile. The protagonist never imagined he would encounter an old man falling from the sky. The old man drew a sword. His speed of descent was so great that Zion anticipated the impact. Like a comet, the old man fell on top of the crocodile, causing it to bend down. The shockwave shook the rocky floor and lifted the lava from the river around. A strong, hot wind hit the protagonist. He protected himself as best as he could. The impact wave was so great that he could no longer hear anything. While worrying about himself, Zion remembered the old man who fell from the sky and the monster. When he looked up again, he saw the old man holding a large sword. The giant crocodile was beside him. The spark that had been in his eyes had disappeared. Zion could feel that this man was completely different. This was not the level of a strong, awakened one, but of a being at an even higher level. The old man walked towards the protagonist. His feet sank into the ground as he walked, as heavy as his steps. It was his voice asking the young man, "What are you?" I asked, "What is your name?" Zion remained silent in shock, not hearing a response. The old man warned that he would count down from 3 to 1. The countdown began, and when it ended, he was already in front of Zion. "Time's up!" The old man took the sword from his back, sighing. "Since you won't speak, I will end you." At that moment, Zion's hearing. He returned. He waved desperately. Wait, I don't know what was happening, but spare me." The old man repeated the question, wanting to know his name. Zion introduced himself. At that moment, as he passed by, the old man commented, "What a stupid name!" The protagonist rolled his eyes. "Who do you think you are to speak ill of someone's name?" After passing him by, the old man swung his sword, cutting through nothing in front of him. It was as if he were attacking only the air, practicing his powerful sword strike. He replied to Zion while sheathing his sword. "I am Day Order." Covering his ears, the protagonist asked, irritated, "What was the old man doing?" Day Order returned the question. "What do you think I'm doing?" All Zion could see was the old man calling him an idiot and threatening him. "I am grateful you saved me, but what did I do wrong?" Completely ignoring him, Day Order bent down, touching the ground. "You are an idiot! You fell into a trap!" The protagonist didn't even know what this was about. He saw a small hole in the ground, from which dense red mana was emerging. Day Order gave him an explanation. This is a phenomenon that occurs when the mana of a dungeon becomes oversaturated. To protect itself, the dungeon creates another entrance and releases the excess mana through this rift. The old man also revealed that the mana would bond to any living creature. As soon as he finished speaking, the dense mana around Zion began to take the shape of a snake. Having the luck of a lifetime, the protagonist cursed Park Marrow for having thrown him there. Day Order approached Zion calling, "Hey, idiot!" The protagonist asked him to stop calling him that. Day Order ignored him and turned Zion's head to look in a direction. "Focus the mana in your eyes and see." The protagonist stayed silent and did as the old man said. A glow emerged in his pupils as Day Order instructed him. "Do not see with your eyes, but with the mana. Feel the mana in the air." The protagonist looked at the spot where Day Order had attacked. There was the body of a monster. It was only revealed when Zion used the technique taught by the old man. That was a beast with stealth abilities. It hunted its prey without a warning. The protagonist never imagined there would be such a large monster before him. He hadn't even felt its presence. If it weren't for the old man, he would have been devoured without knowing. The protagonist looked strangely at Day Order. The old man had saved his life twice. This made him question just how powerful he was. The protagonist asked the question he had wanted to know for a long time. "Who exactly are you?" The old man replied, as before, "You are really an idiot, aren't you? I already told you that I am Day Order, kid." Zion was not satisfied with the answer. "Who exactly are you to have that kind of power? And where are we?" The old man did not mind responding. "This is my hunting ground." Smirking mockingly, he told the young man to see for himself. Showing the sword on his back, he called out the name Crayon. Suddenly, a reverberation spread throughout the dungeon from the sword. The protagonist covered his ears to avoid being affected. Once again, as he wondered what the old man was doing, he looked up as a shadow passed over him. Several crows with fiery wings began to hover above them. Day Order called out to him again. "Hey, idiot! If you can't do anything, at least try to survive." Zion did what the old man said, trying to dodge the fire crows diving to attack him. The worst part for Zion to face was the speed at which the crows attacked. He was hit in the arm, as well as in the leg. Soon after, the crows were fast enough for him not to evade. The strangest thing was that the crows focused only on one side of his body. Irritated, he began to manipulate the ashes and made them wrap around his arm. Moving towards the tip of the finger, they were shot like projectiles. The crows were faster than the attacks and could easily dodge. They dove back towards Zion. Even using sand and eyes with mana, Zion still could not keep up with the speed of the winged beasts. Being attacked from all directions, he wondered what to do. If this continued, his end would be near. The old man had already saved his life twice. Zeon did not want to perish just to become the fool that Day Order called him. The protagonist remembered something. It was the moment when he could not hear Day Order's voice, but he could see him. The method to fight against the crows was to hit them without needing to see them. However, Zeon did not know how to do that. He tried to think and think to find a way to fight. The protagonist then tried once more to do what Day Order taught him. He focused the mana in his eyes, increasing the purity of that mana. When trying to see the flying beasts through the mana and not with his eyes, everything became clearer. A fire crow dove once again towards Zeon. In the last moment, he created a sphere of ashes around him. Feeling the mana of the monsters, he knew exactly where they would be in that attack. When the flow of mana from the monsters approached, it was time to attack. Using the technique taught by Day Order, Zeon realized that the old man was already several steps ahead of what was going to happen. Even managing to block some of the crows, Zeon still had to face a tough battle. It seemed difficult to fight alone. That's why he tried to find out where the old man was, as if it were an answer. Day Order appeared above a lake of lava, attacking several crocodiles at the same time. As he wielded the sword, he cut down each of the monsters. The old man laughed. Interesting, how interesting. I am getting excited for the first time in some time. After eliminating 2 more monsters, he returned to solid ground. Like a comet, he dropped the sword. Channeling mana into his fists, he shouted, "I want more! More! Bring me more!" All of them. The number of monsters seemed to decrease. The last one attacked. Day Order cut it down, sighing. What a shame. I was just finishing my warm-up. Why are there so few at this point? Zeon felt bad for the monsters that Day Order had eliminated. He could not understand how the old man had defeated so many huge monsters with a smile. Trying to staunch his wounds, Zeon wished, I guess there are no more monsters, right? However, the answer he received was the sound of tremors. The lava began to rise, reaching places that were once safe. Zeon felt immense pressure, as if something powerful was approaching. The force of whatever that was made him fall to his knees on the ground, vomiting. Wiping his mouth, he questioned what was happening. Day Order revealed that was the boss's roar. The protagonist could not believe that the old man had said such a word. Day Order revealed that every dungeon had a final boss. It was the origin of that area, and the reason he had come there. Emerging behind one of the mountains, gigantic wings covered the sky. The protagonist looked up, wide-eyed. Is that the boss? King Orden smiled at the challenge. There he is, the Crimson Draco! The ash dragon roared once more, raising the lava that was flowing down from its volcano even higher. Confused, the protagonist asked why the old man called the monster Draco and not dragon. Day Order revealed that, because of the monster's low rank, it did not receive the name of the mythological creature. The protagonist still feared the power of that monster. The wings of the Draco exuded dense mana, a light blue color, the same color as its eyes, that stared down at the humans below the volcano. When Zeon saw the monster moving the terrain around him, he shouted, "It is a force field." I gave an order. I patted Zeon's head a few times, showing my impression. Oh, idiot. Do you know the force field? The protagonist claimed to have heard about them. Monsters of rank B or higher had their own unique traits, just like humans, just like the rank mark of the awakened. A red force field would signify a fighter's characteristic, while a blue force field would represent magic. As the protagonist spoke, ice began to form around the Draco. Frozen spikes grew, refusing to melt even in that fiery environment. Large icebergs were launched by the Draco. The attack fell upon Zeon and Day Order. Before they knew it, the protagonist shouted, "Heavens! He is too powerful!" In the next instant, a cross-shaped slash was launched by Day Order. It destroyed the large ice cube into 4 parts. The ice crumbled before Zeon's eyes. The protagonist had never expected something like that. Something that went beyond common sense, beyond anything he had ever experienced before. Even everything he had discovered about the old man before him was being surpassed. The large crimson Draco opened its mouth, gathering cold energy deep in its throat. But, before the breath attack could be used, Day Order struck the beast's head, canceling the conjuration. The Draco had sharp claws for fighting, not just magic. It tried to grab the human who attacked it. However, its arm was blocked by the sharp blade. Day Order slid over the beast's arm, but ended up getting caught. He had to stop channeling his freezing breath halfway. When he opened his mouth once more, the Draco showed that the attack was already pre-channeled. Day Order felt no fear. Instead, he smiled. Once again, he closed the large Draco's mouth, causing the freezing attack to explode inside the beast. Deordem was laughing at the sight. Ha ha ha! Are you feeling any pain? Your face looks horrible. Don't worry, I will end your suffering. He held the sword with both hands, raising it to finish off the beast. Today will be the day you cease to exist. The sword struck Draco, causing a tremor throughout the dungeon. Being closer to the epicenter of the attack than he wished, the protagonist tried to hold on. Damn, I will end up meeting Lord Yama sooner than I'd like. Damned lunatics. Why can't they resolve things with just a conversation? Zeon was trying to escape the battle zone, where ice and sword attacks created shockwaves spreading around. Those attacks were reflected by the enemies who launched them. While running, the protagonist managed to control the ashes in the area, creating a shield on his back to block at least some of the attacks coming in his direction. After distancing himself, Zeon cursed again. They couldn't fight somewhere else. With just one shockwave, it could cause me so many problems. The protagonist continued to struggle, using sand control to make the ashes protect him. Diordum, on the other hand, kept laughing, enjoying the battle he had always wanted. He jumped over the great Draco's head. Doesn't it seem like we are in an amusement park, my dear Crimson Draco? The Draco, trying to shake the human off his head, dove into the hot lava. This created a wave that flooded the nearby area, even the area where Zeon was. With the impact of the battle, the ground that was once safe began to crack. Shockwaves were spreading more intensely. Dan, who was in one of the areas starting to collapse, saw the shockwave traveling in his direction. There was no way to evade it. He was thrown far away. The protagonist's body bounced several times on the hard ground before falling toward a river of lava. His eyes revealed the despair he felt. Looking up, I saw Day Order fiercely facing the dragon. As intense as the battle in the sky was the heat of the lava behind him. I gave the order. He was making the most of the battle. Is this all you have, Draco? The dungeon boss kept bowing his head down. The old man struck the monster's head, making it lower. Draco did not let himself get caught in its mouth again. Freezing energy was gathered. The old man was anxious to face the attack. The breath of ice broke the sound barrier when striking, like a cannon, devastating everything in its path. A chilling mist left Draco's mouth. After the attack, Day Order had disappeared from his sight, searching for me. Draco looked around, seeming surprised. In the next moment, an aura sword, several times larger than Draco, fell upon him. The monster fell on his back to the ground, exhaling a sigh of pain. However, not defeated, he drove his sword into Draco's belly. Day Order revealed he had spent an entire year searching for him. I will forge crayon with your heart, so say goodbye. The sword was pushed down, piercing deeply. The freezing energy from Draco and the hot force of the sword clashed. However, the crayon sword proved more powerful, absorbing the enemy. Day Order pulled back the sword, which shone full of power. He smiled, showing all his teeth. It seems you have become stronger, Cryon. At that moment, he heard a voice. Talking with a sword, it drove him insane. The young man clinging to the cliff praised the old man for being strong and able to defeat Draco. Day Order did not expect to see the boy alive. Surprised, the protagonist recalled what happened minutes ago when he almost fell into the lava. When he was thrown against the lava, he maintained his focus, acting quickly to control the ashes around him, creating a thin layer of ash between him and the lava. Even Zeon was impressed by his persistence. The protagonist cursed the old man. A crazy old man was creating so many shockwaves that my reflexes improved. They helped me survive. The muscular old man smiled, complimenting him while calling him an idiot. At that moment, the dungeon's sky began to shatter like fragile glass. Order warned that with the boss eliminated, it would collapse. Zeon got nervous seeing the old man grab him by the shirt. Order began to laugh and threw him against a portal. Goodbye, idiot. Zeon cursed the old man. You crazy old man, you are even worse than Park, Manho. When he passed through the portal, the protagonist fell into a desert. He ate sand for the second time in 24 hours. Spitting, he asked where they were. The order appeared behind him. Where do you think we would be? Outside the dungeon. The powerful old man's voice suddenly became serious. Listen, idiot. He approached Zeon. I need your sand control ability, but right now you are so weak that you are practically useless. Pointing in one direction, he gave him the right to choose. You can go over there until you reach you will return to live your ordinary life. Pointing to himself, Order revealed the second option, or you can follow me and become something better than an idiot. The protagonist asked how long he would have to follow him. The old man didn't have a set date. A few months, a few years, maybe even a few decades. I still don't know. So decide if you will go back to your mediocre life or gamble your life, where there is a 99% chance of even staying alive. With those words, the old man made him choose. As he stood up, the protagonist scoffed. Choose? What a joke. He pointed at the old man, asking if he was crazy. The choice seemed easy. You expect me to give up my home, bed, and comfort to follow you through the desert? Order was serious when he replied. Yes, exactly that. The protagonist scratched the back of his neck. He stated that there was nothing more to discuss before making the decision. I will go with you. Zeon declared that he would not tolerate not returning someone's help. He remembered that he was too weak to take revenge. He warned, "You are also on my list, old man." Those words were said with a smile. The protagonist recognized the power of Day Order. "You are the strongest person I have ever met. I doubt I will find anyone even stronger. Then, I am sure." Bursting with laughter, Jordan asked what he was sure about. The protagonist clenched his fist, causing the sand, carried by the wind, to gather. "I am sure that if I go with you, I can become stronger." Jordan warned that he would regret this conviction one day. Thus, he began his march. "Follow me, idiot. We have a long way to go." Time passed, and the sun, burning through the clouds, made Zeon bathe in sweat. He begged the old man to walk slower. They had been walking for 6 hours without a single pause. Day Order was silent, which drove Zeon crazy. "Why don't you say anything? You are a rebellious teenager. What's with your mood change?" It was so hot that Zeon imagined the temperature was over 50 degrees. The sand was even becoming a hindrance to walking at this pace. He imagined he would be dehydrated soon. King Orden suddenly commented, "What an idiot. You can't even use 1% of your total power." Confused, the protagonist asked what he meant. The old man mocked him, as the young man was able to control the sand, and yet pathetically could not walk properly. Clutching his head, Zeon complained, "That sounds easy for you, but it's only been 2 days since I awakened." Day Order questioned if that was a problem. When he heard the boy claim he was rank F and not a high-ranked awakened like him, the old man became furious, grabbing Zeon by the shirt. He bellowed, "You stupid idiot. Then, if you are rank 1 or rank F, nobody is born in a high rank. Even if they are born, the chance is very rare. Do you want to give up everything just because you are not one of those blessed ones?" After his outburst of anger, Day Order released the boy. Sighing, he recommended that Zeon stop complaining. He suggested Zeon think more about how he could use his own power. He placed his hand on the protagonist's shoulder, advising him, "This is your power. So, you are the one who knows it best. You need to break your limits and discover how to grow and use it." The protagonist was starting to get emotional with the support given by Day Order. Then he felt the old man squeeze his shoulder. The old man shouted, "Did you understand, idiot? If you don't figure out how to use your power, you are done for." While they argued, they didn't notice the approach of some animals camouflaged in the sand. Being pressured for so long by the old man, the protagonist took a step back. He saw the sands around him rise, trying to analyze his ability. Zeon discovered that he could control the sand up to 5 meters away. Zeon stepped forward, using what he learned to condense the sand beneath his feet, avoiding sinking. With his feet not sinking, he ran joyfully. "It's working! My feet don't sink!" Despite the joy, Zeon felt that it consumed a lot of mana. It wouldn't be good to use such a skill for long. He then tried to focus the mana in his legs, covering them with sand. Day Order heard Zeon trying various different things and felt a great nostalgia. Oh, the sweet youth. Trying again and again is for sure a privilege of the young. Zeon continued trying, even after failing. Day Order knew he was rank F. His raw power and mana control were at most rank D. After managing to walk on the sand while trying something else, the protagonist ran to Day Order joyfully. "Old man, see if I can control the mana by touching my feet." Walking is much easier. Zeon was so happy that he mocked the old man for not being able to do the same. Being so annoying, Zeon received a punch to the head. It knocked him down to the ground. I gave an order. I reprimanded him. "Stop bothering me, annoying brat. Don't waste your energy or you won't make it out of the desert." Warning that there was no time, I gave an order. He told him to get up quickly. Zeon's consciousness, however, was almost failing because of the impact. He did not get up even when the old man called him several times. When he woke up, Zeon wondered where he was. The old man beside him commented, "You finally woke up, idiot. I went through hell because of you, for you made me waste time." Zeon ordered the old man to look at him, who was already so hurt that he couldn't help. While he spoke, the old man threw a piece of jerky at him and told him to eat while listening to him talk. Unexpectedly, the old man would tell the story of his youth. He felt nostalgic when he remembered that time. Even if you were weak or untalented, survival wasn't a problem. Protecting the weak was considered an act of great pride. Can you imagine that? But as you know, the world changed. While the protagonist continued to eat, he heard the old man say that could have been a normal reality for Zeon, but he himself had never been able to get used to it. "I gave an order." He warned that if he wanted to find a tragic yet comfortable end, he could continue that way. But if he didn't want that, it was time to get up. The protagonist obeyed. As he stood up, he asked how many years the old man had lived to have so many memories. "I gave an order," eating the jerky. He didn't even chew it, just let it become soft with saliva before swallowing. It seemed to be the right way to live in a desert where water was scarce. The protagonist huffed internally, trying to imitate the old man. Instead of dealing with the fish, I gave an order, seemed to be trying to teach him how to fish. Even though Zeon had never seen a fish in his life, the protagonist followed the old man. As he continued the journey, he asked for another piece of dried meat. Suddenly, Zeon sneezed. The cold of the desert night was much more freezing than he had imagined it would be. Besides the cold, Zeon was suffering from sleep deprivation. The old man had spent the entire night talking to his sword. When Zeon stated that he was thirsty, asking if there was water anywhere, he saw the old man squeeze a shirt, pouring water into his own mouth. The protagonist gritted his teeth, cursing for not having said anything earlier. He thought it was sweat. Zeon tried to lick his own body until the old man called him. "Hey, idiot!" While complaining about how he was called, Zeon was instructed by the old man to notice what was around them. The protagonist began to feel a vibration. After that, a second one. Before he realized it, they were surrounded by monsters. They were horned hyenas, night monsters. The order asked Zeon if he could survive alone or if he needed help. As they spoke, the hyenas began to grind their teeth, drooling before hunting their dinner. The protagonist smiled at the old man's question and extended a finger, pointing at the hyenas. "Do I need help? Of course not, because I will survive my own way." The protagonist controlled the sands to gather around his body. At the same time, dozens of hyenas ran towards him. Gathering the sands, he funneled them to the tip of his finger, firing a projectile of sand, knocking down one hyena. Then, he made thorns grow around him, throwing several of them into the air. Even so, the hyenas did not stop approaching, to the point of making him stressed. "You damn things! How many of you are there?" The protagonist felt the emptiness in his chest. Before he was devoured, he would end up exhausted from the mana loss. He tried to think of a plan. At that moment, brute force was not what mattered. It was a way to attack efficiently while managing his mana. The protagonist continued to think about how he could fight using little mana. His thoughts were interrupted when he felt one of the monsters bite his arm. The protagonist got angry. He punched the hyena, gritting his teeth. He saw his sore arm covered in bite holes, but it was because of those holes that he thought of something. The hyenas kept running towards him to attack him in a group. Zeon had made a decision. Making a hole was all he needed to defeat the beasts. With a wave of his hand, spikes of sand rose up. With a single hole made in the heads of the monsters, he defeated them. The protagonist laughed joyfully, celebrating that he had managed to bring down several of the hyenas. In a battle, mana was directly tied to his life. If you panicked and burned mana excessively, your end would come faster. Trying to adjust to the opponents, Zeon created sand spikes of the correct size. On the other side, the Order was also being attacked by hyenas. One even managed to bite his arm, leaving him furious. "I will not spare a dog that bites people." A mischievous smile appeared in the old man's eyes. Zeon realized something big was about to emerge. Raising Iordan's sword, he bellowed, "I will finish all of you!" A dark, crackling energy exploded across the shadowy desert, reaching the skies and generating a shockwave that tossed the hyena bodies away. Zeon created a sand barrier to avoid being hit while he complained. Zeon noticed the large hole created by the impact of the attack. He wondered if the Order was really human. The protagonist cautioned himself to act carefully from then on, for if something went wrong, he would be buried alongside the enemies. While he was thinking, he heard some grunts. The Order climbed onto a large hyena. "You are the leader, right? For a leader, you are crying quite a bit." The hyena became furious with the mockery of its horn. Lightning appeared. Orden was surprised to see the animal's force field. He reached out to touch the beast's horn. Zeon was startled, thinking the old man would be in danger. However, Orden took the attack with his bare hands. The protagonist nearly lost consciousness from such turmoil. The lightning struck him. The old man thanked. "Thanks to that, the attention on my shoulders was gone." Frighteningly, he said farewell to the beast. "Now that your massage is over, goodbye." With a punch, the large hyena was buried in the sand. Zeon was drenched by the red of the hyena's insides, while trying not to lose his sanity with the crazy old man. Zeon used the skin of one of the hyenas to cover his body. Announcing they had already defeated all of them, he asked Orden if they should move on. The old man ripped off the horn of the leader hyena, revealing that it had many uses. It even had an electric attribute, and, if refined well, it would become a beautiful weapon. He threw a dagger to Zeon. The old man warned that he would have to gather his own food, as it wouldn't be easy from then on. While cutting the animal meat, the Order gave a good lesson in butchery. The muscles of a horned hyena are highly toxic, so you will die if you consume them, but the flank meat is safe. Seeing the young man staring at him, Orden warned that the sun would rise soon, ordering him to hurry up. Zeon looked at the bodies of the hyenas with some disgust. Florence hurried him, as the sun was already appearing on the horizon. As the journey continued, the protagonist whistled while eating the dried meat. He carried on his back a cloth full of recently obtained meat. Despite his thirst, he was well fed. Walking had also become easy, thanks to his skill. He joined with Orden, teasing. "With envy, Grandpa. I wonder if you are trying too hard for your age." Orden tried to punch him to punish him. However, already expecting this, Zeon dodged. Yet, he was unable to evade the sword that struck him, causing him to fall. The muscular old man reprimanded him. "You crazy kid. Some of us are exhausting ourselves to the point of collapse, and you are acting all cocky just because you have one damn useful skill." The protagonist stuck his tongue out at him, asserting he would keep playing. He also complained, "I'm already thirsty and you keep throwing me in the sand." He asked what they were looking for. As they walked, the protagonist suddenly felt some humidity in the air. Zeon thought he was crazy. However, the old man also seemed to sense the same thing. They looked toward the distant horizon. The protagonist wondered if there was anything there, perhaps an oasis. The duo continued to walk, climbing a sand mountain. Zeon was extremely happy because they found something very famous in the rumors, an oasis. Before them was a small lake. The protagonist quickly descended the small sand mountain and approached the lake. Staying behind, Orden clicked his tongue, knowing what they would face. The protagonist ran to the water and dunked his head. He closed his eyes, feeling the coolness contrasting with the scorching desert. While feeling immense happiness, Zeon opened his eyes and saw a gleam of light at the bottom of the lake, approaching rapidly. Zeon also began to feel sleepy until he heard the old man shout, "Wake up, you blockhead!" Orden ran to Zeon to try to save him. The lake before them was much deeper than they could see from the outside. In the depths, an abyssal sea beast with a glowing antenna on its head attacked, opening its mouth ready to swallow the human drinking from its water. Orden grabbed the protagonist by the shirt, pulling him back. The giant catfish leaped out of the lake, splashing water in all directions. The command was quick. He jumped toward the beast while drawing his sword. With a sharp strike, he made the monster fall back into the oasis. Zeon looked up, wide-eyed. He was surprised to see, for the first time, a rainbow created by the water splashes. Jordan threw the large fish, teaching about it to Zeon. This was a fugord. It uses the light on its forehead to attract and devour its prey. The old man suddenly sighed. Before Zeon could react, he attacked him with a punch. As Zeon was still trying to understand what had happened, the old man shouted, "Have you forgotten everything I taught you? Do you really think you are some smart guy now, just because you have adapted a little to this place? Idiots like you are the first to lose their lives in a desert like this." The protagonist nodded, understanding the order mistake. Then he commanded, "Skin it!" The protagonist idiotically asked, "Skin it of what?" Grinding his teeth at having to explain everything, the old man stated that a fugord was a rank sea monster. Its belly skin was soft and elastic, perfect for a coat. That's why he should skin the monster and make a coat. Confused, the protagonist asked if the old man needed a coat. The old man thought he would go crazy with so many stupid questions. He yelled in the boy's face, "Not for me! For you, idiot! You are getting dumber by the second!" With sore ears, the protagonist smiled, apologizing. As they approached the fugord, the old man explained that even though it had changed a lot, it still looked like a fish that lived on land a long time ago. Believing it was Zeon's first time seeing a fish, he told him to take a good look. Zeon was surprised to hear that it really was a fish. It was his first time seeing one. Thus, a deep first impression was formed. Fish are scary. Zeon brought the dagger closer to the fish's body, but even pressing, he couldn't pierce it. I gave orders. Lying down nearby, he commented, "You are scratching his back. This dead fish might come back to life since you are scratching so well." The protagonist focused. It was harder than he thought. He came up with an idea. While trying to maintain concentration, he controlled the mana. He infused it into the dagger, making it sharper. He managed to cut the fish's skin. After obtaining the fish's skin, the protagonist cut one of its scales to use as a needle. Then he used the beast's tendons as sewing thread. When he finished his work, his eyes sparkled with excitement. But then he realized that the coat he made was completely horrible. Falling to his knees in depression, even Ordens mocked him. "You turned the fish into trash. Congratulations." As he had enough material, Zeon tried to make a new coat. When night fell, Zeon finally finished his new outfit, this time with much fewer scraps. After failing 8 times, he managed to dress well enough to not feel cold at night and to protect himself from the heat during the day. Suddenly, Zeon heard the old man calling him and held the coat as if it were his own life. "I won't give this to you." The old man told him to stop talking nonsense. Carrying a large ball, he ordered him to eat. The protagonist was startled, asking what that disgusting thing was. Eordan explained that the giant ball in his hand was Foga's bile, a precious remedy. He instructed Zeon to eat it all, not leaving even a gram behind. Zeon asked what would happen if he didn't eat it. The old man mocked him. "Well, I'll finish you off." The old man threw the fish bile at Zeon. The protagonist quickly ate it, chewing forcefully. After taking the first bites, he realized something. It was like eating a cloud. He didn't feel full at all as he ate, consuming more and more. When Zeon finished eating, Ordens called him, "Hey, idiot, time to burn!" In the old man's voice, who was barbecuing fish, there was mockery. As Zeon asked what he meant by that, he felt a flame inside his body. Zeon's body felt like it was boiling. He brought his hands to his throat. Losing the ability to breathe, he felt that his body was not just getting hotter, his mana was going crazy. The agony was like swallowing a sun. While Zeon continued to scream in internal pain, I gave an order. The old man told him to resist. He spoke philosophically. "Everything here is like an oasis. It swims in the tide and disappears as if it never existed. Thus, the cycle of life continues." While the old man philosophized, Zeon fell to the ground. He was screaming and cursing him, asking for help. The old man just looked at him before telling him to shut up. Then, he would go to sleep. The night passed with Zeon screaming the entire time. When the sun was already high in the sky, he woke up. The old man appeared above him. "You woke up, idiot!" The protagonist was startled, nearly jumping with fear. Then, he ordered to ask if he had slept well. However, Zeon had fainted, not slept. The old man asked how his body was. Upon checking, Zeon was surprised. He felt as light as sand. His muscles were hardened, and his mana control improved. Testing the control of the sand, Zeon realized he had grown immensely in a short time. I gave an order and explained that it was because of Billy, the fish. This was a precious remedy found by desert travelers. It gathered power by facing the sun and sand. Its value was much greater than mana stones. He congratulated Zeon, as the Billy worked very well for him. Zeon, upon discovering that it was a precious item, questioned why the old man gave it to him. The answer was obvious. "Because you are weak. I need you to be useful since you will be by my side." The protagonist thanked him, laughing, claiming he would become more useful. I gave an order and told him to shut up and eat the fish. "We are not leaving until you eat the whole rocket." The sun was high in the sky. 4 days had passed and all the giant fish had become just bones. Diordam called the boy to leave, with a smile. Zeon put on his jacket and took the lead on the walk. The duo was attacked by sandstorms. Zeon, however, managed to protect himself from them, enjoying dried meat as they traveled. Diordem, on the other hand, faced the sandstorm as if it were just a breeze. He hadn't spoken for days. It had been 2 weeks. The protagonist asked if the old man even knew the way they needed to travel. Ignored, Zeon didn't notice the monster lying in the sand until it rose behind him. The giant ant attacked him, but the young man was not frightened. He eliminated the creature without even needing to look at it, using a sand skewer. Sighing, the protagonist continued to complain, "How much longer do we have to walk?" He heard a noise behind him and saw that the ant was still alive. With his feet in the sand, the protagonist used it as sonar. Below the sand, he felt countless creatures moving. The protagonist crouched down, preparing to attack. In the last few days, he had learned that if he lagged behind, the old man would punish him. By punching the sand, Zeon made it move, revealing the various monsters. When all the ants were uncovered, Zeon began to point his finger at them, murmuring, "Explosion!" The sand below the giant ants exploded, piercing them. The protagonist resumed walking, enjoying the storm that had scattered sand everywhere. However, when he realized it, old Diordem was already far away. While Zeon complained, one of the last ants that had managed to survive began to snap its jaws. Zeon was trying to catch up to the old man, with no sense of camaraderie, when the young man, with a detection range of only 10 meters, he felt the ground tremble. The protagonist was always on guard. He never lost focus on his surroundings. This way, he could react immediately as soon as any magical beast appeared. However, what Zeon felt at that moment was different. What he sensed beneath the sands was better described as pure terror than just a mere beast. Dozens of ants jumped out of the sands around Zeon. The protagonist did not want to believe the number of monsters. It looked more like a massive army. The protagonist shouted to the old man, warning that there were many monsters. I ordered them to stay far enough away to be safe. He sat on the ground, just watching. Zeon decided not to depend on the old man like a child anymore, especially knowing that he ordered had likely sensed the monsters beforehand and said nothing. Using his control, the protagonist created spirals of sand like giant spikes to fulfill his mission. He smiled, loving the challenge of facing the damned giant insects. The sand spikes attacked the ants, exploding upon touching their hard shells. The ants disappeared in the cloud of sand. However, soon one passed through it, attacking Zeon. The protagonist dodged the monster's fangs by jumping over it. Zeon roared in irritation. "How many of these damn things are there? Don't they have any shame attacking in groups?" The hateful words had no effect, as the various giant ants continued to attack in groups, leaping at him. The disturbed sand covered the entire area where the battle took place. After disappearing into the sand, the protagonist created a solid block and used it as a board to lift himself into the air. He escaped, moving away from the anthill. Now that he had escaped, he wanted to stay in a high place to understand the situation before going back to fight. However, suddenly, Zeon felt himself being pulled. The ants had climbed on top of each other to reach him in the air. Zeon thought this could only be a joke. There was no way the monsters were so intelligent. The protagonist was pulled by the foot. The dozens of ants that had climbed over one another knocked him back to the ground. The protagonist suffered internal wounds, coughing heavily. Fallen on the ground, he stained the sand red while coughing, trembling. Leaning over, Zeon looked up towards the old man from Iorden. The old man would not help him, so Zeon smiled like a madman. "You'd better see how I will survive this, surrounded by the ants that would devour him." Zeon managed to keep smiling. Day Order remained seated, watching the battle. He liked the young man's attitude and analyzed him. His skill is an unmatched blessing in this world that has become a desert. You probably must be filled with ambition, thinking about returning to Nova Su and taking control of that place, without even realizing that you could be the most valuable prey. If there was one thing that had not changed, even after the collapse of the world, it was the greed of fools thirsty for power and of rigid minds. The power of the awakened was the greatest of powers. There was nothing they desired more than his sand control ability. Watching the fight, Day Order asked the distant young man, "Do you want to become strong? Do you want to survive? If you have managed to survive until now as a weak being, then it is time to survive as an awakened one." Planting his sword in the ground, the old man shouted, "In this insane world, try to survive until the end." The tragedy from 100 years ago had been recorded as a brilliant light falling from the sky. However, for those who lived in that era, the fire and destruction that spread were much more than that. Torn memories of loved ones were all that remained, vividly, for those who survived. For Day Order, surviving meant crossing an endless line between life and death, bearing the burden of a life. Returning to pay attention to the battle, the old man wondered, "He's not going to lose against these monsters, is he?" Zeon already seemed to have gone insane and was talking to the ants. "Can't you feel that you're all screwed?" The ants did not attack, as if sensing the danger around Zeon. He had created a high-pressure sphere with the sand, which spun intensely. The sand missile was fired. The condensed sand traveled towards the monsters, spinning with intense pressure. With his power amplified many times over, the sand missile exploded. Zeon celebrated. "This is the end for all of you." The young man boasted intensely about defeating the monsters. In the distance, the old Day Order could see the young Zeon's excitement, who had created several sand missiles. He waited. Zeon had already exploded various parts of the desert, and all the ants had disappeared. The protagonist celebrated to himself, shouting, "Did you see that, old man? I took care of all those bastards." It was at that moment he suffered an attack from behind. Another ant had appeared, one that Zeon had not sensed. It grabbed him with its claws, lifting him up. Zeon felt his powers weakening, as if they were being cancelled. It was impossible for such creatures to have a skill of such a high level. Therefore, to him, it could only be poison blocking his mana flow. Trapped by the monster, Zeon refused to give up. "Damn it! Do you think I'm going to lose like this?" However, he could not break free and was dragged by the ant. As he fainted, when the protagonist woke up once again, he found himself inside the anthill. Several dark chambers made him see only the glow of the ant's eyes. Hearing something crawl towards him, the protagonist looked to the side and discovered giant larvae crawling in his direction. The larvae climbed onto the protagonist to devour him. They sank their sharp jaws into Zeon's arms. Even feeling pain, he couldn't move. His end was coming. With his mind weakening, the protagonist was about to faint once again. However, it was then that he began to move again. He crushed the larvae around him. The ants watching him were surprised. Even if faintly, Zeon continued to attack the larvae. He crushed them with his hands frantically. He screamed, "Even when my life flashes before my eyes, no good memories come to mind. This is so unfair. My end will not be like this, you damned ants." At that moment, one of the lines on Zeon's arm shone brightly. Sand exploded around the protagonist as he controlled it. A storm was created inside the anthill. It alerted the ants and caused part of the anthill to collapse. Zeon once again crafted the sand missiles. With the missiles ready, he looked at his hands. He felt that his power had increased. His rank had risen. The effect of the poison had worn off, and now his human stamina was back. The second mark on Zeon's arm confirmed that he had evolved. He was impressed by the power and amount of mana he possessed now that he had stepped out of rank F. Still, looking to the side, he saw the giant mother ant. It had not even received a single scratch when hit. The giant ant's walk shook the entire anthill as it pursued the protagonist. Zeon tried to be quick, throwing sand missiles to try and stop it. The missiles launched by the protagonist fell once again on the giant ant. They caused it to retreat slightly, but did no significant damage. Once again, the protagonist cursed the monster. He clawed the ground with his fingers, feeling powerless for not being able to defeat that thing. He had attacked the beast countless times and had never managed to hurt it. He tried to think of a method. To get through the impenetrable armor, without breaking or piercing it, Zeon thought of a method. He began to control the sands again. He aimed to bring down the monster still wearing armor. The sand, controlled by Zeon, started to wrap around the large ant. However, between the ant's fangs and mouth, a sphere of light appeared. Zeon tried to make the sands engulf the ant. Somehow, he defended himself with the energy sphere. The protagonist was struggling with all his might, yet that energy sphere was damaging his body, especially his ears. It attacked him with high-frequency sound waves constantly. Powerfully, they also blocked the sands that were attempting to swallow the ant. Facing the monster that had been hiding all this time, the protagonist challenged it to see who would perish first. Using all his energy, Zeon's eyes shone with an intense golden color, the color of sand. He roared fiercely, using all his mana. But at that moment, he felt something break. Zeon did not understand what was happening. All he felt was his body falling into a dark void. Before anything could happen, Zeon was grabbed by the old man, who mocked him. "Wow, you are way too weak." Seeing the boy about to faint, he tried to wake him up. "If you fall asleep here, your face will get all twisted." Hearing the taunt, the protagonist smiled happily at seeing the old man. "Since you're here, I'll let you deliver the final blow." Day Order smiled at the boy's ingratitude, yet he was thankful the boy wasn't entirely useless, as he had already defeated the large ant. He explained that it was called the Wolf Queen ant, a rank C monster, stronger than the young man. The old man praised Zeon for not giving up, even when facing something so powerful. Therefore, he deserved to live. Despite all the explanation, Zeon could hardly hear anything, as his ears were aching. Realizing the young man's condition, Day Order grabbed him by the shirt, hanging from the coat. The protagonist asked what the old man was doing. He commanded and led him to a sphere that was where the queen ant had been eliminated. The sphere shone like crystal. Curious, the protagonist asked what that was. Since Zeon wasn't listening, he commanded and wrote on the wall, "Queen's egg. Eat it and you'll feel good. Tastes like strawberry." Zeon couldn't believe the old man wanted him to eat it. Looking at the crystal egg, the protagonist wondered if it was really edible. Zeon questioned the order if he wouldn't get sick, like when he ate the giant fish's bile. The old man said something, but Zeon couldn't hear him because of his bursting ears. He made the decision to eat that egg since the old man had ordered it, even not knowing what it was. A strawberry? He hoped it would be something good. Upon swallowing the egg, the protagonist stood up happily. "What is this? It's so good!" Before asking for more, Zeon felt an intense pain all over his body. Thorns had pierced from the inside out of Zeon's body. The pain was enough to drive someone insane. The queen ant's eggs were extremely toxic. Even a small amount forced the internal organs of a human body to invert and rupture violently. In other words, anyone who consumed them would have all their internal organs pierced and turned inside out until they went mad with pain. Zeon was screaming madly, "What did you make me eat?" The order scratched his ears, complaining about the noise. "You better get used to it because to survive, you'll have to eat a lot of crazy things." Zeon couldn't imagine how he would get used to this. Trying to endure, he felt his stomach churning and something rising to his mouth, causing him to vomit, painting the floor red. With that, the pain he felt inside ceased. The protagonist jumped up happily, recovering from the pain. As he fully healed, Zeon, he thought he could finally trust someone. He questioned if he was an idiot for doing so. It was after celebrating exuberantly that Zeon fainted once again. The old man approached the body of the ant queen. He plunged his hand into her body. He searched for something and, upon finding it, pulled it out. "Give the order," he smiled cheerfully. "Renee, as expected, a monster's mana stone is on a completely different level than mind stones. We hit the jackpot." The order was satisfied, as even the body of the ant seemed useful. He then decided to take it with him. The sword Cryon, beside the old man, suddenly exuded energy. "Give the order," He looked as if he understood what she meant. All right, I know. But there's no other choice, right? If you're weak, it's your fate to meet your end sooner than others. He looked at Zeon's body and ignored it as he walked away. He paused slightly and warned the boy, "You understand what I'm saying, don't you? Come on, we don't have much time." When Zeon woke up, he found the old man staring closely at him, startling him. He exploded the sand like an attack. "Give the order." He suffered nothing, just brushed the sand off his clothes. What a rude boy. "Why are you throwing that sand at me, brat?" Noticing dozens of sand mites around Zeon, Jordan was surprised, as the boy was much more powerful now. Zeon threw all the sand spheres at Jordan, venting his anger. Even though the old man was ultimately too strong to be affected by his attacks, the protagonist continued to strike, controlling the sand of the anthill. "Why did you do this to me?" Zeon's eyes shone with intense light. His expression was that of someone out of control. "I will never forgive you." Zeon controlled the sand to cut the stalactites from the ceiling of the anthill. The pieces of stone detached, all falling upon the order. Having used his power, Zeon gasped slightly, tired, warning. "And that's why you shouldn't have betrayed me." At that moment, the voice of the old day order echoed. "What are you doing, blockhead?" Clearing away all the stones, the old man revealed himself unscathed. He explained that the queen's egg was an ingredient that would affect his body, but it shouldn't be bad enough to drive him mad. Recovering, the protagonist was surprised that Day Order hadn't suffered even a scratch. The old man sighed, questioning why he would poison Zeon when he could eliminate him without all this trouble. In the end, the protagonist realized the old man was right. Since Zeon still hadn't understood what he had eaten, the old man explained, "The queen ant's egg is a deadly poison that twists your insides, but on the other hand, it also removes impurities and waste from every corner of your body. It can be a deadly poison or a divine remedy, depending on how it is used." That egg expelled the impurities from the body of whoever ate it and filled those areas with mana. He asked the young man if he didn't feel stronger. When attacked, the protagonist remained in his mana paths, which had at least tripled in intensity. Looking at the old man, the protagonist ran towards him, embracing him while crying. "I'm sorry for doubting you. I must have lost my mind. I don't know what got into me." Day Order didn't mind much. Yes, you blockhead, I get it. Now step back. I don't want another man's hug." Zeon continued to cry, having returned to hearing. He was very happy to have been healed by the egg the old man had told him to eat, and Day Order still couldn't believe such a big young man was crying. The old man with the great sword knew the young man might not have survived. He had survived precisely because he was strong. Zeon would be useless if he didn't become stronger quickly, but Day Order warned himself for having bet his life. After everything was resolved, he grabbed Zeon, tucking him under his arm. "Let's go." The protagonist asked why he was grabbing him again. The old man grinned mischievously and then pointed up. "We are running out of time, so let's take the faster route." The protagonist began to sweat desperately in the desert. Small scorpions wandered peacefully until the ground beneath them exploded. The top of the anthill burst open. By my command, it appeared holding a young man under its arm while laughing. "I told you it would be easier this way." Zeon just wanted the old man to move like normal people. The old man revealed why they needed to be fast. "I didn't sleep for 4 straight days," he joked. "You have such a fragile body. How are you going to marry someone like this?" At that moment, the old man noticed something. Zeon sensed something was wrong, as he had never seen the old man look surprised. He looked in the direction the old man was staring. By my command, carrying him through the sky, he flew over a gigantic stone turtle. Even from miles away, the turtle was as big as a city, big enough for them to see it clearly. I cursed. "Give us a break." "Damn. That's the mobile fortress, Archelon." The old man explained that it was a rank B monster turtle, a beast whose defense statistics surpassed even those of rank A monsters. People modified the turtle's shell, tamed it, and used it as a mount. Zeon almost went crazy when he discovered that such turtles became someone's pet. Zeon raised his head, mouth agape. The turtle had quickly closed the distance. With the gigantic beast close to them, Day Order commented, "The world is vast. There are even those who can ride a monster like this." The great turtle Archelon seemed to look down at the two on the desert floor. The old man told Zeon to take a good look at it. Suddenly, from Archelon, someone leaped, landing before Zeon and Day. The person who appeared commented, "Look who it is." I wasn't sure, as I was too far away, but it really is you. The protagonist, scared, began to manipulate some sand, until the old man told him to stop going crazy. The old man, standing before them, had a large beard and a monocle. This made him look much older. With his toothless mouth, he greeted, "I haven't seen you in a long time, Day Order."